lot to cover. Thank goodness we pulled out our TVA Padlet. We were able to recruit our Wolverine, Jax, for today's podcast. And we are going to be talking about a movie today that has just been reported. Box office numbers are in, makes over $200 million domestically. It's making over $430 million worldwide. It is the fifth highest grossing superhero movie of all time, based on opening weekend at least. But somehow, I don't think that's the lead for today's podcast. Only the Marvel Cinematic Universe could outdo itself with an announcement, with a casting. And I think, guys, this is the most shocking casting in the history of the MCU. And we have to talk about it. So we had a bunch of updates from San Diego Comic-Con. First time that Marvel has been there, Hall H, in about 2 years. And boy, did they pack a punch. Instead of getting Avengers 5, the Kang Dynasty, instead, we have a switch up. We've made a pivot. We are going to be having Avengers Doomsday. And we have our Doctor Doom. We had Joe and Anthony Russo go up to the panel, go up to the podium, and introduce none other than Robert Downey Jr. as our Doctor Doom, heading into Doomsday and then into Secret Wars. And Jax, I want to start with you. This has been very divisive on the internet. Mm-hmm. Do you love it or hate it?
I love it. I absolutely love it. There is a clear path on how they can make this work perfectly, and they just need to execute it. Right? I think Robert Downey Jr., I mean, he's proved himself to be a phenomenal actor. And he's the guy. Like, you can't go wrong with RDJ. And like, there is a storyline in the comics where Iron Man, Tony Stark, basically becomes Doctor Doom. And if they can execute that and make it work in a way where it ties into Secret Wars, it's going to be perfect.
You're in. Ricky Flex, are you also in?
I'm like, when you go to the beach and it's like a scorcher of a day. It's hot. And it's like, oh, I need to go in the water. But you go in the water, it's like, oh my God, the water's way too cold. But you go in anyways. That's kind of where I'm at with this. I could see the path here, and I acknowledge the path. But I don't know if I want to stay in the water for over 5 minutes, if not just a quick dunk. I don't know. I'm on the fence with this, guys. You guys seem to be in. This seems a little desperate to me. This seems a little desperate. This is like, I don't know. I'm not going to do another Colin Cowherd analogy. I'm not going to do it. But there's plenty of other analogies you can go down this road. You go sports analogies, big trade, whatnot. But for a character that wears a freaking mask the entire time and like makes it like Doctor Doom, and like you're making a Tony Stark potential variant here, I don't know if that's worth $60 million a year to show out to RDJ when we're trying to move forward, not move backwards. And I think it's cool, like the Doomsday and then Secret Wars, making it like an Infinity War, kind of like a Thanos origin type of story, and then the end game. I love that. And the Russos brothers, I'm fully back on them being here. But the RDJ thing, I'm on the fence. It's cold water. I got to get out a little bit. You know, I don't know. Doc.
Okay. So I want to tell Jax the hilarious story because I had been planning on tweeting and reporting and sending out news for the drive-in from the Hall H panel and let everybody know what's going on. If they follow, please follow at the drive-in pod. And I got through the first couple, I guess, reports or the first couple announcements or updates on Brave New World. And I saw that Giancarlo Esposito is playing, was it Sidewinder? Is that what the character's name was? Someone I've never heard of. But after that, I swiftly fell asleep. It was about 10 o'clock. The panel is about 30 minutes in, maybe a little bit more. And then I wake up at 12:30 in a sweat. And I woke up to about 50 notifications on my phone from different accounts I've been following, from phone calls, from text messages that were just going ballistic, including from Ricky Flex. And I saw that Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Doctor Doom. And all of a sudden, I wasn't sleepy anymore. All of a sudden, I was up until 3 a.m. watching YouTube videos, looking at different reports, and I was in love with the idea from the get-go. I did not like for a second. I thought I was being tricked a little bit. I thought I was being punked by waking up. I thought I was still sleeping. I thought I was dreaming. But I think this is actually perfect for what is the multiverse saga. They are going 100% all in on this, right? And there are so many variants that have showed up that have felt meaningless. And it felt like, okay, we were going to get Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark in Secret Wars, but he would have been from a different universe, from someone that wasn't built up, that we didn't care about, that we didn't truly know. This is an alternate perspective on Tony Stark, a character that we could see an arc potentially starting from Fantastic Four. If he is that Tony Stark variant from that universe, that Doctor Doom, and see him travel through 3 movies. That, to me, is so much more enticing than seeing some throwaway hero type of like venture that we would get for about 20 minutes in Secret Wars. I am all in on the evil arc. I think it's a good way of getting Robert Downey Jr. actually excited to play the character, whole different perspective. I am most into the idea because we can grow with a variant for once, Jax.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of can keep the legacy of our Tony Stark intact. Like the snap, I am Iron Man.
Does it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it?
Absolutely.
I'm pushing back a little bit.
That's the big question.
I don't know. I don't think it does.
How?
I don't think it does, because you're diluting the Tony Stark that we know, even though they're 2 separate ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, it dilutes it. I don't think it's like a Logan situation where it's like this is a pure variant. You're literally making him like, well, it is a pure variant. It's not like he's still a hero. Like, this guy is doing a 180.
Yeah, but if they give background on how they're making, so I don't know if you guys are like aware of the comic specifically, that it's like a what if comic. So it's essentially like, what if Doctor Doom, like what if Tony Stark became Doctor Doom? And the way it happens specifically is like Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom, like transfers minds essentially and erases Tony Stark's memory. So if they can add context and give background on that specifically, I think it's perfect. I don't think it touches the legacy whatsoever, right? If it shows context, like in the Fantastic Four movie, like a post-credit scene or something at the end of the or whatever it may be, and they show us that, I think it's chef's kiss. Nothing wrong with that.
It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. And again, I think you had to have someone big, charismatic personality as a RDJ playing Doctor Doom. Is he the greatest actor on the planet, like freaking Joe and Anthony Russo said on stage? I don't know, but he is coming off an Oscar. But you are right also, Doc. Like, this is intriguing. I can see why it's intriguing to RDJ. Coming off the Oscar, not just for the money, but also just playing the villain arc where everyone views him as like Tony Stark, Iron Man, like my dog, like the hero of our age, really, the past 20 years almost. So I do see why it would be enticing to him. I just view it as like, dude, like you were on the Lakers and you go to the Celtics and it's just a bad taste in my mouth.
I hear what you're saying, Ricky Flex. This comes down to a conversation I think we're going to have later on with Deadpool and Wolverine. Do you feel like the variant of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, of his Logan, the one that shows up in Deadpool and Wolverine, does that step on the Logan movie from James Mangold? And some people would say yes. Other people are able to make the clear distinction. Here, there's going to be such a clear distinction between good and evil, right? The motivations are going to be so different when they finally are apparent. To me, we're going to be seeing something totally different, but also we'll have the inner, like we had Tony Stark already, he was already kind of like on the line. We've seen him in like Civil War when he wasn't the most likable, but if he just goes full on the other side here, I think, first of all, he has the chops. Like when you think about big bads in the MCU and you think about overarching big bads and one that are going to be carrying over for movies, like Robert Downey Jr. does have the weight, the gravitas. He just won a freaking Oscar. And he also played the antagonist in a Christopher Nolan movie that wins Best Picture. Like he has it, right? And when they say he's like the greatest actor, for a lot of those people that are sitting in Hall H, he is. You could argue he is the greatest superhero actor of all time. So I'm not even going to dispute that, you know? And like I said before, he could sink his teeth into it. I don't think it steps on the legacy, but that's where you're going to have the internet divide, Ricky Flex.
But like, okay, I get it. But I think if you compared it to Wolverine variant and Deadpool Wolverine, I think that one, it's like Deadpool Wolverine, yes, it was a multiversal MCU movie, but it did feel like a Fox movie at times, and it's like the Deadpoolness of it all and the meta-ness, you kind of accept it. Here it's like you're tackling this head on in a multiversal story with the Avengers, not just for one, but two movies with the biggest bad, and who defeated the previous biggest bad? It was Tony Stark, and there's going to be direct inclinations of it. And also, don't oh my God. By the way, Fantastic Four. We'll talk about that later. But again, it's not like this is like it's going to be done like after this Avengers storyline. The Fantastic Four are going to be integral, if not the most important part of the MCU going forward. It's like, is this what we're doing? I guess the only Von Doom we're going to get. If it is, like, that is kind of I'm not going to say disappointing, but it's just like I don't love it. I really don't.
Jax, anything to add there?
I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it is the only Doctor Doom we get. Because we've heard all the rumors, all the stuff that they're gonna completely reset after Secret Wars, and like it'll be more focused on like the X-Men. So like, I don't hate it. Like I'm just happy because I wanted a true Secret Wars storyline with the Doctor Doom. I didn't want there to be any confusion with like having Kang take the power of the Beyonder and all that stuff. Like I wanted give me comic accurate one time, and they did it. So like it could have been Chris Evans playing Doctor Doom. I wouldn't have cared.
I would have cared that.
I would even comic accurate. Like,
just give me Doctor Doom, please.
Chris Evans can't act like Robert Downey Jr.
Hey, if it's comic accurate, if it's comic accurate though, then we're never going to see RDJ's face.
Yeah,
that's
so Ricky,
but they're not going to do that. Look what they just did with Logan and Wolverine.
I have conditions. I have conditions for like this working.
One, he paid $60 million not to show his face. I don't see Marvel accepting
Ricky, that's one of the two conditions. He has to wear a mask for the majority of the time. And I think that would actually help, not stepping on the Iron Man legacy and actually like promoting him as Doctor Doom. He has to wear a mask for 90% of the time. Maybe not in the Fantastic Four, where we're getting used to this evil variant of Tony Stark. But the second condition, he has to be introduced in the Fantastic Four movie. He has to. I need to see an arc over 3 movies. And Doctor Doom, which hero is he most associated with, or what superhero team is he most connected to? It's the Fantastic Four. So if you want to take Doctor Doom seriously, right, and you want to take Robert Downey Jr. seriously as this character, he's got to be introduced there. He's got to appear in 3 movies, right, and he's got to be wearing a mask. Those are my conditions. Other than that, I'm all in. Any other thoughts, boys?
I agree with that. He's got to be in. Not like we just threw Thanos out there in Infinity War. We got a few post-credit scenes. We got a little bit in Guardians. Like we had a subtle thought of him going ahead. Thor Ragnarok. We have to see something in Fantastic Four. We can't just go right into Doomsday, which is, by the way, a sick name.
It is. Who would you rather see? Would you rather see Kang the Conqueror? Or would you see Doctor Doom, bro? This is an upgrade.
The Doctor Doom is not the problem. It's who is playing Doctor Doom. And I don't think he's a problem as in the actor. It's just who it is. Like, he's a great actor. We just talked about it. We just glazed him. But the problem is this decision. This decision is, again, like, I guess I'm more cold on it. To go back to the analogy, I'm more like, get me out of the water.
I think that when you look online, I think more people are against the casting. Although that pop at Hall H was insane. I didn't know if they were screaming for their lives. It felt like, I don't know. It felt like a wrestler that made a turn or switched teams. It was insane.
Crazy. So I think I'm trying to think of like moments in Comic-Con history. I think that's up there, if not the best moment.
100%.
Yeah. Shock factor, I think, took over, and people had this was a thing where rumors started to take hold a tiny bit, but people are like, they're not crazy enough to do this, right? They're not willing to cross that line. And then they did. And then they did do it. And people online too, like that engagement. I couldn't take my eyes off the videos that came out. I couldn't take my mind off the takes that were being hurled left and right on all social media platforms. This took over Deadpool and Wolverine's weekend.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
My last thing. All right. I mentioned RDJ coming back. The Russos are back. They even got the same writer as the Infinity War and Endgame, which I think is smart, by the way. But again, it doesn't feel like we're moving forward. It feels like we're going backwards with all these decision makings. I guess that's just a big thing that's like at the front of my mind. I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to take the next step with the Fantastic Four, with the X-Men in the future. But I just feel like Marvel's not doing that. And I think that's a huge problem. And I'm not going to say it's going to bite us in the ass, because I think these stories are so good that as long as you just have a good core, then, okay, we're going to be fine. But Doctor Doom is the core. And it's a lot of desperation, reeks of desperation for me. That's just where it's like, crap. And when that happens, you see those signs, usually your end game is not good. Usually your product is not good when that happens, when you make those drastic decisions. So for me, this is interesting, but I'm a little nervous.
The thing is, the Russo brothers coming back, that was a safe play, to have them come back, because they have done those type of movies before. Infinity War, Endgame, it was safe. And we talked about that last time. Was it desperate? More safe. This one feels a little more desperate, right, than safe. This whole thing is not safe. To have RDJ coming back and throwing his legacy up in the air, all right, him playing an evil version of a character everyone fell in love with, this is ballsy. And if it doesn't pay off, this might be the end. This might be the literal end game. And we're going to have till 2027 to play out. But either way, if it doesn't work, guess what? X-Men are coming. We don't have to see any of these characters anymore, So I feel like we don't need a Doctor Doom to go past 2027. This is the arc right now. We have our big bad going into these two next Avenger movies, okay? And we obviously don't have a problem with Doctor Doom. It's like, who's playing it, like Ricky Flick said. But I'm okay with it as long as he grows with some of these characters, right? Just like you had Thanos grow through the first few phases of the MCU before Infinity War and Endgame. All right, Any other final thoughts, Rick? Or Jax?
No, you summed it up well.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just, in my opinion, right, I don't care who plays Doctor Doom. Like, I just want Doctor Doom. I'm desperate for Doctor Doom. Like, if it wasn't going to be Cillian Murphy, I don't care who. Like, RDJ, sure, why not? Like, that's how I